welcome to NAPOD, where we provide NA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us to be self-supporting by visiting napod.xyz, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 in the virtual basket. If you're also in AA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, Sobercast. Sobercast features AA speakers and workshops in the same format as NAPOD. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for Sobercast, that's 2 words, on any podcast player app, or go to Sobercast.com. Enjoy the podcast, and thanks for listening.
This is a speaker share meeting, and I'm really pleased that Andy's come to do his share, his home group. It's great, so I'll hand over to you, Andy, for as long as you like. Yeah.
All right, thanks. For as long as I like, you probably shouldn't have said that. Hi, my name's Andy and I'm an addict.
Hi, Andy.
I feel really, really grateful and really privileged and honoured, really, to be here, to be honest with you. I celebrated 8 years on Saturday.
That's how you did it.
Okay, I'll give it a go. So I am. This whole week really has just like been a week of like reflection for me, really, and looking back, not only sort of over my recovery but sort of like just looking back, really. I don't know whether I've been sort of going through a bit of a midlife crisis or something. I'm not too sure, but I won't look too deeply into that. I think, for me personally, I was thinking about it about an hour before. I suddenly thought, oh my God, I'm like doing the share tonight, and it's like I haven't thought about it all week. It's like there's my nan's funeral on Wednesday. And it's like I just feel so grateful to NA, you know, and what I've been given, that I've been able to be there for my mum and my sisters, and my kids. And you know, because I never was before, I was never there at all, so I just feel really, really grateful at the moment. I was thinking earlier, it's like the longer that you're in recovery, it's like the more stuff that happens. So it's almost like, for me, it's almost like I've got so much I could talk about, just so much. But it's like, I don't even try to sort of figure it out what I'm going to say or plan it out or anything like that. I just sort of say it how it is and see how it goes, really. Okay, so Tom said about 25 minutes or something like that.
Half an hour.
Oh, half an hour, okay. Okay. I guess there's a few newcomers that hopefully there's some people in here that haven't sort of heard my sort of share before, and you know, I don't question whether this disease, you know, it's the disease of addiction. I don't question, you know, whether I was born with it or this, that, whatever else. I just accept the fact that I've got it and that's that. I don't question it. And you know, and I can look back and sort of like see, you know, when I was younger and stuff. And I guess through working the steps as well, I've been able to like really, you know, look back and figure out, you know, stuff. And, you know, and I think the longer I've been in recovery, the more and more stuff I remember. You know, I was severely, you know, I wasn't going to swear because of what Lester said, but I was severely fucked, basically. You know, the drugs fucked me up proper. That's all I can say about that, really. But I can remember from an early age, you know, just being a little terror, really, you know, stealing out my mum's purse and, you know, pound notes and stuff like this, and stealing cigarettes and just being a little terror, really. And I don't know why I was like that, because my brother wasn't like that, and my sister wasn't like that. And, you know, the thing for me, I can really sort of pinpoint for me when things, you know, when I started using when I was 9, and I started sniffing solvents and petrol and Tipex thinners and then gas and you know, it sort of progressed like that. But the way that I look at that now was my dad left when I was 9. It just left me with feelings of, rejection. I felt unloved, felt unwanted. I'd lost my dad, and it's like I hadn't sort of learned or been taught how to manage or express my feelings at all. My dad was like an RAF. He was in the RAF, and he was sort of like very sort of regimental, and just feelings and stuff like that wasn't really spoken about in my house. And so when that happened for me, I the only way I sort of managed it was by acting out, like really, really acting out at such a young age. I was smoking, I was sniffing, I was like stealing, setting like cornfields on fire, and do you know what I mean? I was just lost the plot completely. I was just total little like nut. And I used to hang around with people as well, a lot older than me, and I just didn't feel a part of my family. I didn't really feel a part of anything really. I struggled in school. I didn't know how to do some of the work a lot of the time, so I would mess around and act out even more, and and get sent out of class and all of that sort of stuff. And it wasn't long before my mum couldn't handle me anymore, and I got expelled from school at 11. My mum would send me to my room for being naughty, and I would climb out the window down a drain pipe, and I'd be gone for days. It was just, I was such a little shit, man. It really was. So yeah, social services got involved and whatever else, and I got put into care for like 3 years, and that was really hard as well. But I can really look back now, and I can really accept what happened. A couple of years ago it wasn't like that. It's like, my fucking mum put me in care, but do you know what I mean? It's like looking at it, and it's like, a lot of the time I understand things, but it isn't until they really like sink into my heart that I really truly understand something. Do you know what I mean? And that's how it's been like for me in working this program, really. So yeah, I come back, like I was in care for a little while, and then I come back and got back in with all my mates again, and like just started drinking like a bottle of whiskey a day, Jack Daniels, going up to like gateways and stealing it, drinking a bottle of whiskey a day, and doing buckets and hot knives and all of that stuff. Do you know what I mean? And I used to enjoy it in a way. Well, I did enjoy it. I also wouldn't have done it, I guess, but I used everything really. Do you know what I mean? I've done trips and microdots and magic mushrooms. Used to go up Hardwick Heath and pig 'em and stay out all night and run around like lunatics and all of that. Do you know what I mean? So it was fun, and I really used to enjoy like hallucinate. There we go. I wasn't going to say that word. I was going to say hallucinogens, but that's not even a word. I mean. But anyway, so yeah, that was a Suffolk word. There we go. But I did enjoy that. Do you know what I mean? It's because when I was sniffing, when I started sniffing glue and that as well, it's like for me that was it. That done it for me. It's like reality just disappeared, and I was just gone in a completely and utterly different world. It just took me away from every single thing, every feeling, every thought, just everyone. And it's funny, really, because towards the end of my using, I started sniffing glue again because the drugs just weren't working. It was just madness, isn't it? So that went on for a little while, and I went to like upper school and got expelled within 2 weeks. I was violent. I was disrespectful. I was a liar, cheat. I walked around with just pure hatred and anger on my face, and it's like, I used to walk up the road, and people literally used to cross and walk down the other side of the road. Because I was just, I don't know, I obviously gave off that thing that, it's like, if I was walking up and if someone was to look at me for more than 3 seconds, it'd be like, what the fuck are you looking at? It was just totally and utterly nuts. It was just mad. But it's like I was so full of anger and rage and resentment and hurt, and, from that age of 9, when I really felt that hurt and stuff, it's like the following years, stuff just built up and built up and built up and built up, because you know, me using and drinking, yeah, that took me away from what was happening, and, you know, I didn't have to feel what was happening, and I could focus on other things, but, you know, that hurt was always there. But I was just piling stuff on top of it over and over and over and over again, and I did use extremely obsessively, and I was extremely compulsive with everything in my life. Everything, every decision. It was usually the wrong one, but that's probably because I made it like compulsive. But anyway, so yeah, and then I'll skip forward a bit. At 16, I ended up like getting severely fucking hammered, and I ended up stabbing someone, and basically I got banged up for 5 years for it. And through that time, you know, I can remember, you know, I was 16 years of age, and I got like, I was on remand for 2 years, and then I got a 5-year, like, detained sentence, and, you know, I was just, I don't know, I don't really know. All I know and all I can remember really was my mum and my sisters and that crying, and, you know, me sort of like putting on that, like, hard nut exterior, like, yeah, what, 5 years sort of thing. But as soon as I got back to my cell, that was it. I was done, man. That done me proper. You know, I contemplated suicide, and, you know, I was just a confused, angry, hopeless kid, I guess, who was severely hurt. That's how I would describe myself, I guess, at that time. And, you know, through them 5 years, you know, I put on antidepressants and had sleepers, and, you know, obviously there was drugs in prison, and we used to make hooch and all of this stuff, and, you know, so I was still using, but, you know, on some of the days that I wasn't using, I'd be down at gym, I'd be reading books, I would just be doing stuff. I must have read over 1,000 books when I was inside, just one after the other, anything just so that I didn't have to think, you know, about what was going on or even feel anything. It's like, it was the same, you know, and for me really looking back at that time, it was a perfect example of how I can say, do you know what, yeah, I've got the disease of addiction, because when I wasn't using, you know, when I was in prison, I was just using everything else, obsessively and compulsively, you know, and I'd just tear it to bits, and, yeah, and then when I came out when I was 21, so I've missed all my teens, which I do feel a little bit sad about, actually, but, you know, it's the way it is, consequences for you. Yeah, I come back, and then, like, I got involved with some not very nice fellas, and one of my mates got shot, and I just thought, you know, I can't do this anymore. So got in contact with my dad again, and like moved up to Milton Keynes with my dad, and that was just, if I really, really had a choice, that's not what I would have done. But to be honest, like, all of my family live in Bury St Edmunds, and he was the only one that didn't, and he was the only place I could go to, really. So I moved up there, and things went from bad to worse, really. You know, I was so full of anger and resentment that fucking used to like physically fight all the time. You know, I would constantly steal off him. It just wasn't a good move, really. So, you know, I met a girl. I got in with like this gang of lads and started using and stuff like that again. I'd go to the pub every night, but I met this girl and sort of like moved in with her near enough straight away. Because I just needed to get out of my dad's house. I needed to get away from him, because I really felt like one night I would kill him. I really fucking felt it. I really, you know, I knew that something really, really bad was going to happen if I stayed there. So I moved out with this girl and, you know, started getting into the party scene and clubbing, like, from a Thursday to a Sunday, you know, Sanctuary and Ministry of Sound and all of this stuff, you know. And for me, I guess, from probably from like 21 to about 23 probably, so for a couple of years, you know, I really enjoyed going clubbing, and, you know, but all through this time I was just fucking, you know, I couldn't be faithful in a relationship. I didn't know how to have a relationship, not any sort of relationship at all with anyone really. You know, so all that time I was just the same really, just getting worse, violent, really, really, really violent. You know, I'd lie, cheat, rip people off, mug people, you know, and then I started like, you know, sniffing coke and stuff like that. And then, you know, this kid's, oh, why don't you wash it up, blah, 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 whatever. So then I started smoking crack, and that just fucking done it for me. It's like, but then for the next 5 years, that just done me. I lost every single thing in the house, sold everything in the house, you know, and the things that I'd done, you know, the way that I manipulated and stole off my family, it was just horrible. You know, I can remember, and you know, by this time, like, I had my daughter and I've got a stepson, you know, and we was buying, you know, at Christmas and birthdays and stuff like that, and it's like, you know, we were buying things, and then we would take it back to get the money to buy the rock, and we'll get it back, and this, that, and whatever else, and it was just a really, really horrible, you know, for me, that, when I look back on my using, you know, because of how much I love my kids, you know, and how much they mean to me, looking back at that now, you know, that for me is just really, you know, I feel really, really not shameful anymore, because I've accepted it, and I've done that because of where I was at and what I was going through, and, you know, but I feel like like a pang when I think about that stuff. It's like, but it's okay. Basically, I just wasn't a very nice person. I wasn't a very nice person for about 29 years, and then and then I started injecting heroin, and then I started injecting whiz, drinking all the time, smoking all the time, blah 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 blah. Okay, so one night, like, I ended up basically chasing my ex and the police around with like a samurai sword. I just totally lost the plot. I'd slipped my wrists. I just lost it completely. I actually went to try and get myself sectioned, and they turned around to me and said, well, you need to sort out your drug problem first, really. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I'd slipped my wrists, I was chasing people around with swords. It's like, what's happening here? You know, I couldn't get the help that I needed, and, you know, I got nicked for that, and blah, 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 and then I got basically I got forced, is that the right word? Okay, I was given two choices, prison or treatment. And I think for me, you know, I really felt like, in my heart, that I'd had enough. Without a doubt, I'd had enough. I'd lost the plot. You know, the drugs weren't working for me anymore. I was like injecting 1/2 ounce of whiz a day. I was sniffing glue. You know, it just stopped working for me. It was just, you know, I was just grasping at anything to try, and it just stopped. So yeah, so I decided to take the treatment route and give that a go. You know, and for me, I don't want to talk too much about treatment, but, you know, I can't get away from, you know, that was my experience, that was my, you know, that is part of my story and my journey, and I guess, you know, for me, they sort of held me together, you know, and gave me the support that I needed at the time. And after doing, like, I'd done 4 months treatment in Bury, and then I went off and done secondary in Bournemouth as well, and I could have stayed down in Bournemouth, but my ex, like my kid's mother, you know, was still using, and for me, I could really see, you know, that my kids were going to end up in care if something didn't change, if I didn't, you know, do something. So I came back, and, you know, I got my kids off her, and, you know, I've looked after them ever since, and that has just been, it's been hard, but it's been great. It's been hard, but it's been great. I don't know. Yeah. And, treatment introduced me to the rooms as well, so, for that I am grateful. Definitely. And for me, I guess, it's, I don't know, there's just so much to say really about, I've got so much going on, so much has happened. But I think, for me, and the biggest thing that I heard, and this meeting was my first ever meeting, and this meeting I have continued to come back to, for 8 years. This is my home group. It's changed venues, and I've seen probably thousands of people come and go, and, but this place, wherever the venue, it's almost like this Friday meeting for me is my meeting. That's how I look at it. This is my meeting. It's not though, do you know what I mean? It's not. It's like an NA meeting, but it's my meeting. This is what I consider mine. This is where I feel comfortable. It's where I feel loved. This is where I've done my first ever chair as well. But it's like, and there was something I was thinking about. I'm probably going to go off a little bit here, but just bear with me. There was something I was thinking about, and it's like, there's two people in this room that were around in this meeting when I first come around. But there was a lot of people with like 3, 4, 5, 6 years clean time. And it's like, them people, some of them, quite a few of them are still around, but they don't do meetings anymore. And it's like, for me, I look at that and I think, I don't know. I just have my own opinions around stuff like that. Me personally, I would just feel like I'd taken what I could from NA and the program, and then I've just gone and I'm not going to give anything back. And for me, that's just, my own opinion, that's wrong. That's just not on at all. But that's just how I think. And if it wasn't for people, coming to meetings and sharing about how they work the steps and me hearing, how they've got clean and how they done it, I wouldn't be around today. So for me, it's a part of me showing my gratitude, and, I can only keep what I have by giving it away. And for me, that is just so true. I've done a lot in 18 months. It's like I've done 8 months treatment. I've done like aggression replacement therapy with probation. I know. I've done like 20 odd weeks of that, and cognitive restructuring, and then like work the 12 steps, and this was like in 18 months. And it's like, but what I heard when I come to meetings was, if you want to get well, you need to get a sponsor, you need to attend meetings, you need to work the steps, you need to do service. And and I heard this, and my head was completely and utterly fucked. I was nuts, without a doubt. I was insane. It's like, without using, I could really, I could just, it was just there in front of me. It was clear as day. I was off my head. It's just as simple. That's just how it was. I was just mad. And it's like my thinking, my behaviours, they were just off the wall. And it's like, for me, I wanted to get well. I wanted to get better. I wanted a better way of life. But for me to do that, I'd have to put in some work, and I'd have to change. And for me, this is, the 12 steps for me, it's a program of change, because there's no way that I would have been able to stay clean with what I was doing. Even though I wasn't using, I was still doing all of that old stuff, all of that old, old behaviours, still thinking the same way, disrespectful, unfriendly, lying, cheating, just all of that stuff, dishonest, a lot. So for me, I knew that I needed to work the steps. I knew that was the only way that I was going to, start to get better. So that's what I've done, and it's like, and I say this quite often, but for me, my addiction did spread out in other areas of my life. But you know what? It spread out within my step work as well. And I've done it obsessively, and I've done it, that was it for me. It's like, do some step work, go to a meeting, come home, do some step work. That was my life for for a good few months, well over a year or so. But you know, for me, that's what I needed to do, because it's like there was quite a few people that were in treatment at the same time as me, and they weren't doing that, and you know they've all gone to be on. It's like out of 18 people that are in treatment, I'm the only one. Hold on. I'm the only one still clean out of that 18 people that are in my group. So, you know, it's like, I don't know why I said that, but it's just statistics or whatever, but okay, so yeah, so that's what I've done, and for me it's like I've always had service. You know, I've done every post there is, you know, meet and greet, tea person, secretary, literature, you know, and for me that's what I've needed to do, you know, to keep coming back to meetings, because sometimes I just don't want to do a meeting. Sometimes I think, better things to do, or, you know, whatever. But, you know, but I've always had a service post, and something really big for me as well is sponsorship, and so I've taken a lot of people through the steps, through the green and gold, and I have learned so much, you know, through doing that. You know, and that for me is being of service and giving back what was given to me freely by a wonderful man, by such a loving man, and that is what it's about for me. You know, I don't want to keep what I've got and just say, do you know what? I've got my kids, you know, I've got my education, you know, I'm going to get a job, and my life's going to be so full, you know, I've got what I want now. You know, I'm not going to come to meetings anymore, what's the point? And that's what other people have done, and that really pisses me off, but anyway. My journey in recovery the last 8 years has not been easy. It's been really painful. It's been really trying. It's taken a lot of hard work from me. You know, and I have been in some real, you know, I've been in some dark places at times with stuff that a lot of the time I've put myself in. But, you know, the bottom line for me, and you know, this is what my sponsor has always said to me, the bottom line, when it comes down to everything, take everything else away, you know, the bottom line for me is just don't use. That's it. However much pain I'm going through, however, you know, whatever I'm doing, just don't use. And for 8 years and 6 days, that's what I've done. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes it's come to that. It has. You know, and I've had to reach out, and I've had to ask for help, and you know, I've had to trust another man, and it's been really, really difficult. One of the biggest gifts recovery has given me, and, you know, working the steps, the spiritual principles out of the steps. And for me, it's about, you know, I try to be the best person I can be on a daily basis. Sometimes I'm not. Sometimes I'm still a little shit. Sometimes I do, you know, lie. Sometimes I do this and that and that. But, you know, I'm not perfect. And if I was, then I wouldn't need to come back. I wouldn't need to be it. But, you know, I try to, well, no, it's not even so much as try anymore. It does come naturally now. And it's like, you know, I want to be a kind and loving and gentle and respectful and, you know, courageous man. That's who I want to be today. You know, I don't want to be how I used to be, because it's just painful being like that. You know, so I've changed all of that stuff only because I've worked the steps. Only because I've accepted, you know, my past, and I've worked through it, and, you know, I've made my amends, and, you know, and I have a loving God in my life, a God of my own understanding. That was actually like a pretty good sort of swipe through over the steps then, so I don't have to go through the whole lot of them. I think today, you know, the biggest thing that I've got today, and the biggest thing that has happened to me as well in recovery, is that, you know, even though I said it's been really, really painful, do you know what? It's been really, really joyous as well, and freeing. And I've been so happy at times that it's just been amazing. And it's like, you know, I've had the privilege, you know, of falling in love and then sort of the pain of sort of not being in love anymore, and, all of that stuff and that relationship stuff there, which I do still struggle with a lot, but I'm learning. And that's what this program's about. It's about me learning, it's about me changing. But I've been to so many, at the age of 29, I've never been abroad. Do you know what I mean? Since I've been in recovery, I've been to Africa, I've been to Egypt, I've been to Turkey, I've been to Italy, I went to Barcelona, the World Convention, and it's like, for me, that is freedom for me. That is what this program has allowed me to do. It's allowed me to be free. And my children as well, I look after my eldest son and my eldest daughter, and it's like, I definitely thought that my son would have ended up in care or prison but this program, the 12 steps has just had such an effect on me and changed who I was. It's had a profound effect on my children as well, and they've just grown to be so fucking beautiful. It's unreal. And if nothing else, it's like, I think at my very core, that's where my gratitude comes from, because it's not only changed me and allowed me to live and be free, it's had that effect on my children as well. And NA has done that. The program has done that because I've worked it. And another little sort of, well, not sort of, I had another relationship where I was in love and then I was out of love again, so that was sort of happy and then sad. But the most joyous thing that's happened out of that is that I've got a little boy. And for me, I've got 4 children now, but the 3, eldest, I think because I was using, so much and just blocking out all it was just so, I love my kids, but I couldn't ever show it. Sorry. But I couldn't ever show it. I'd say I'd love it, but I didn't know how to be caring and loving and affectionate and stuff in my using, and today it just feels so different. Because it's like I can look at him, and even when I think of him, it just makes me so happy. It could easily bring me to tears sometimes, because I just feel so happy. Do you know what I mean? It's just amazing. This program is amazing. It has changed my life. It's changed my kids' life. And it's like, I'm just really, really, really full of gratitude. And I'm sure I have got loads more to say. But I think that, I'd just be pushing it a bit, really. I don't know. I'm just really, really grateful, and I couldn't have done this without everyone in this room. I couldn't have done this without my sponsor. I couldn't have done it without my friends, and I couldn't have done it without my higher power. And I couldn't have done it unless I wanted it, and that was the biggest thing for me. I wanted to get well, and I want to continue to get well because I'm still a little bit sick. but that's okay. Do you know what I'm saying? That's alright. It's about progress, not perfection. And it's in my heart, I have the disease of addiction. For me to continue to get well, I need to continue to do the things that I've done for the last 8 years. And it's as simple as that to me. So, big up NA. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please help us improve our ranking so others can find us by putting a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast index. Nawpod is ad-free thanks to the folks supporting the show with $1 or more per month. If you enjoy listening, you can join them by going to nawpod.xyz and looking for the donate link. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.